Welcome to the Asset Mindset Podcast today. Let me tell you, we have an exceptional guest. We always have great guests, but today we got somebody really special, a fellow Green Beret, one of my motivated people that I hear his story, and I'm so humbled to be with the men that I served with in my regiment. An incredible Green Beret. We have John Wayne Walding, Silver Star, Bronze Star, Purple Heart, and he's probably like, why are you talking all this? But honestly, brother, you're a great American, and it's incredible to serve with men like you. I probably can't do your story justice, so please introduce yourself to the Asset Mindset audience and let them know who you are.
Absolutely. Well, I'm also an amateur tattoo artist, so next time you introduce me, go ahead and throw that in there.
I want some ink.
Do a vet discount, just hashtag vet VIP. But no, I appreciate the introduction. Like you said, I was fortunate to serve in 3rd Special Forces Group, and for the majority of my adult life, it was 12 years in the military, and 7 that was over in 3rd Group, right? And was blessed to be on ODA 3336 that went through a tough day at the office, but fortunately we're able, because of the heroism of the men to my left and right, to get out of that. And I thank God for those men and what I've been able to do since then.
Yeah, I got to say, though, I've heard from some of the men in your story that, talk about that day. You were a big part of it. You kept fighting, and you were part of it all. I mean, so don't sell yourself short, brother. I know you're a humble man, and, you want to do right by others, but
I just don't quit, brother.
There you go. Don't quit.
Blessing and a curse, right? Sometimes I should quit, right? There's times like, you don't have to do this, but, no, I just, what's that saying? You got to earn your spot on the team every day, right? And that's how I live life, right? From the lessons and that culture and that brotherhood that I learned in the regiment, earning that. Don't be a tabbed guy, be a team guy. Right.
Like
be a
that.
team guy that goes in there and every single day earns that spot on the team. And I learned that, right out the gate. And that's just something I live by.
That's fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. There's guys that were on a team, and then there are, team guys that just,
let's just be real, right?
Yeah.
Guys that went through the course, got a tab, cool little green hat, and God bless them. Right. But they're not on an ODA. And that's why you go through the courses, to be on an ODA and be around those few men that can literally change the world, right? And I don't think a lot of people know that whenever, and I hate to say this, but a West Point friend of mine that was an ODA commander, he was telling me that when, the SecDef, whoever, all of the Joint Chiefs, when they're actually looking into an area of operations, when they're thinking about how to go into that operation, they don't think, okay, how many SEALs would it take, or how many 101st Airborne would it take, or how many Marines? They think, how many ODAs is it going to take to actually win in this terrain, right? Like, that's how significant those 15 guys are on the battlefield, right? Is to where when we're making quite literally global geopolitical, military decisions, those decisions are based on how many Green Berets do we need. I thought that's pretty awesome.
That's amazing. So before we dive in all into your service and what you went through and different things like that, I want to go back even further in time. So when did you realize the power of your mindset or not quitting? Was this something you learned through sports? Was there a family member, mentor? Like what shaped John at a young age?
Man, I don't think you got long enough for me to talk about what shaped me, brother, but definitely, growing up. So if you're asking the question, like, where did I get that don't quit mentality? The quick answer's got to be my grandfather, right? He's my hero. I wasn't raised by my parents. I was raised by my grandparents, and that man, he's the greatest generation, right? Enough said, right? Those men and women were just the hardest generation that we've ever faced. A guy that grew up, in the Great Depression, that Americans nowadays have no idea what it's like to be in a food line, right? They have no idea what it's like to be in a gas line. They have no idea what it's like, just the true struggles that they went through. Because of that, they're hard, right? They went to work and no excuses, got it done no matter what. It's not about how hard you work. It's about, did you get the job done? Right. And that was, my standard bearer growing up was that man. A perfect example is he had back surgery. I think I was probably, maybe a freshman in high school, if not eighth grade, something like that. And as soon as he got home, you know what he did? He went and mowed the dadgum yard because his knucklehead grandson didn't mow the yard because he's, that's just the type of guy, right? Work's
Yeah.
got to get done. I
You
don't
gotta
care.
get
And so, that is what kind of instilled in me, what a man is, right? When you shake another man's hand, you grab it firmly and you look him in the eye, right? And your word's your bond. No excuses. Don't blame people for your problems. You don't get bitter, you get better, right? And that, to your point about sports, I did play sports in high school, or correction, all throughout school, and definitely that mindset of being on a team. I love team sports. I love there's two things about athletics that I think are so important. Physical athletics, right? First and foremost, it is the great neutralizer. You either lifted that weight or you didn't, right? You either hit that ball down the fairway or you didn't. You can't help me do it. No one else can help you. It doesn't matter how much money you make, who your dad is, what color you are, where you come from, what school you went to, all the things. You either do it or you don't, right? I just love the binary aspect of physical athletics. That if you want to run a mile in 5 minutes, only you can do that, and only you can put the effort that's going to get you there or not, right? And there's no cheat code to getting that 5 minute mile, and that's what I love about physical athletics. That just obviously are great lessons in life in general. And then obviously team athletics. I think you've got to know what it's like to have somebody to your left and right count on you, right? It's not about you. It's about the team. There's a certain amount of humility that's in that, right? That at the end of the day, it doesn't matter who's stronger. It's no argument at all that you're stronger together, right? So that is what really ingrained the all go no quit, type of mentality. But also, I'm just to be honest with you, the biggest lesson that I ever learned in life was when I quit football in high school, and I knew I was doing it because I was selfish, right? Because I didn't want to go to practice. Because I didn't, it was August again in Texas, right? It's 140 degrees. You're on the turf and all this stuff, and it's hot and all that. I got friends going to the lake, and here I am going to practice. And I never will forget. I'm telling you, I never will forget the feeling of not just walking into that locker room to telling my coach that I'm no longer doing this, but walking out, right? That walk to that door, knowing that I quit because I'm selfish and I gave up on my guys because I just wanted an easier life. And that's what drove me. Like, I knew that was wrong. And from that moment on, I knew I'll never quit anything again. And the rest is history, right? Going through all this stuff. Like going to be an SF guy, the Green Beret school, whatever you want to call it. I never thought about quitting. That wasn't an option, right? I either win or I die. Yeah, all go, baby. And it's because of that moment.
Fantastic. No, that's powerful. When you learn the regret and how horrible and how much regret weighs, that's why you got to go.
Right.
And I think exactly what you said, as far as guys that went and made it through selection in the Q course, all the ones I've talked to and served with, it was like, I'm doing this or it's killing me, or I'm doing this and I'm going to get heat stroke and med dropped or something, but I'm not quitting. If you go in there, I'm going to try. And, if it doesn't work or gets tough, I can always quit. You're not going to make it.
Not going to make it.
You're going to.
I would say here's the secret handshake. I did everything they told me to do as hard as I could. That's the shortcut. Right?
I love it. Yeah. And what happens? Guys always ask, or people that are interested, what do I got to do when I go to selection? You got the answer. That's the secret
did everything
sauce.
they told me to do as hard as I could. That was it. I didn't game it, right? I didn't say, oh, we did a short run today. We're probably going to do a long one. So I'm going to, I gave it hard. I'm going to go easy on this or whatever. No, every time when they said go, I went all go, baby. When they said stop, I slept.
Yeah. Oh, fantastic. Yeah. I did the same thing. There was only one time I slowed down because I went to selection, the last class before summer break. So it was in June. And it was hot, and it was that long run, and I started feeling the heat come in my face, and I'm like, tunnel vision. I'm like, all right, I got to slow down because I was going, like you said, as hard as I could.
Yeah.
You gotta pace yourself sometimes, but yeah, just keep pushing forward, man. So Now, let's walk into you're getting ready to serve. Tell us about that, your thought process into going in the military, choosing to be a Green Beret and like not a Navy SEAL and that whole decision.
Yeah, I wish I had a better story, right? John Wayne, born on the 4th of July, Green Beret, all the stuff. You think I'd have this great story about my dad telling me, oh, I want you to model this great American, and bald eagle flies over and the flag's waving and all that. But the reality is, I turned 20 years old. My birthday is July 4th, right? I turned 20 years old on July 4th. July 5th, I was broke, right? And I just had that realization, just like walking out of that locker room. They're like, that was a changing point in my life to where I'm like, man, you're not a kid anymore, right? You kids don't, men don't do that, right? Paid on Friday, broke on Sunday. Nobody does. And so, a friend of mine, Clayton Loper, he was at my house because he was on leave from Fort Hood. And he told me he was, doing this and doing the Army rather. And I made the decision, you know what? I'm going to go look at that. And again, I put it into kind of, here's the John Wayne mindset that I always go into. So July 5th, I said, all right, let me think about this. By August 16th, I was in basic training.
Nice.
Yeah.
Take action.
Yeah. You know what? I'm in. That was the easiest sell on the planet. That recruiter said, hey, welcome. Yes.
He was like, yeah, I'm getting my points.
Yep.
When
Exactly.
you walk through the door. So
Yeah.
what'd you come in for a contract in MLS?
Yeah, so I came in. I jokingly always say that the recruiter got me because whenever I asked him, "Hey, I want to join," he said, "You want to shoot missiles?" I was like, "Hell yeah, who don't?" Right, and so obviously they needed to fill Patriot missile operators, and so that's what I went in as the guy that pushed the button, right, the Patriot missile fire control operator, and it was funny going back to the recruiter got me. I never will forget. Obviously you do basic training first, then you go to your AIT, and the first day of school. The instructor was like, all right, I want you to, who you are, where you're from, and what was your bonus. I was the only guy that didn't get a bonus. I didn't know that was an option, right? I didn't know you get a bonus. What do you mean get a bonus? Yeah. But
Oh man,
that's
learning the
what I
hard
went
way.
into. Yeah.
So, all right, you're doing Patriot missiles and talk us into becoming a Green Beret. What happened there?
Well, I got deployed, right? So I was in basic training, and so August I was in there. September I was still in basic training, and that's when the towers fell. Right. And so, obviously go through all that. I did the initial invasion of Iraq in 2003 and saw some cool guys there. And whenever I got back, I said, you know what, this is what I want to do, because I did have I don't know the right word, the wherewithal. I just knew that this wasn't going to be a quick war. Right. We just did the Desert Storm, the 96-hour war. And just, I don't know, just going there, being there and seeing that, I just knew that wasn't the path forward. Right. Or excuse me, it wasn't going to be another 96-hour thing. Right. And so, I said to myself, like, if this is something I'm going to be with the best. And, went to group and tried out and made it.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So what do you think are the really great attributes that being in SF brought out in you?
The best attributes that being in group brought out with me. I mean, honestly, I just keep going back to teamwork. There's just something about 15 guys that can take over the world, right? I love being a part of that team. I love this, and it's not even Spartan, right? Because Spartan was 300, right? Right. Like there's just something about the capability, the right, the significance that ODA has on the battlefield. That's something that I just always, was drawn to, was just that band of brothers, those 15 guys that we can do anything we set our minds to. I love that, right? I love that it's hard. I love that it's more than just hard, right? We're the professional soldier, right? We can go into an embassy and talk to a world leader, or we can go, blow a door in the next day, right? And just a duality of that mindset and that professionalism that the soldier has to have, that it's not just a simple Hulk smash, right? It is, what am I smashing it? Why am I smashing it? Do I have to really smash it? What happens after I smash? Like all of the, just the big boy decisions that you have to have in order to do that. So I love that aspect about it too. It's not just pulling a trigger, but it's just, what happens before and after, during, and everything in between. That's what drew me so much about becoming an SF guy, and then what it meant to be one.
Well, that's great. Yeah. I think that's something that we all really love and appreciate because anybody, I mean, I shouldn't say anybody can kick a door in and just go get the bad guy. But when you're doing all the other things before, after, by, with, and through, working with indigenous forces, like that's, I mean, I know for me, when I was sitting down and eating with my Afghan counterparts, like that bond and respect that was earned at times was incredible. And to be able to do that with your team and change a village or change an
Right.
area in AO is just absolutely incredible.
Well, it's that three-dimensional chess that you're playing, right? You're just not moving, to the square to the front, back, left, or right. You're moving up, down, and then everything in between. And that's, I mean, that's what I've really carried into the business world, that I am now with what I do now is just looking at terrain, right? Understanding the battlefield that you're in, right? What are the risks inside there? What capabilities do I have? How do I leverage that? Like, just again, all that target exploitation that we learned, that's just how I am in business.
Yeah. You want to share a little bit about your transition into your businesses and what you got going on now with the listeners?
Yeah, sure. I got shot in 2008, as you know, right? And was did some awesome stuff there, but whenever I decided to get out, it was a heck of a transition for me, because not only am I dealing with a new job, well, frankly, I didn't even have a job at the time, but as a disabled man, right, as a below knee amputee, there's just so much more that goes into that. And oh, by the way, the wife that I have, we were kind of just roommates because of deployments and things like that, as you know, right? I think the listeners may not know that, and this is what the Green Beret Foundation, I remember they put this statistic out, is like for every day deployed, we only get zero point 0.8 days back, right? So if we're gone for 6 months, well, that doesn't mean we're home for 6 months, right? We're home for less than that. And so now I'm at home every single day and I'm not going anywhere, right? And so just trying to deal with that dynamic of my wife and kids and all the things that I have. But this story that I always like to tell everybody, it was a fight I had with my wife, and the fight was about me leaving. Right, I was moved to Dallas. Frankly, didn't have a job. I was the lead instructor at Chris Kyle's company, which Craft, which we were doing, either experiential stuff, right, taking cool guys out and shooting long guns, or there was some law enforcement training that we did. But it wasn't a 9 to 5. You're working every single day, right? It was kind of a, hey, this week we got some work. That a couple weeks later we got some work. So it was kind of odds and ends type thing. And so what would I do in that downtime? Well, I would leave. Right, I'd leave the house and I would go somewhere, whether it was have lunch with a guy, whether it was go somewhere else, and that's not free, right? And when if you live in Dallas, you got toll roads you're paying for, everything's 30 miles away, so you got gas. I got an F-250, it drinks all the diesel, right? And my wife and I were having, I wouldn't say a fight, but definitely she's like, hey, this is a lot of money that you're charging us, and you don't have a job, you need to stay at the house. Why are you leaving? And I just looked at her and I said, babe, for my entire adult life, I've got up, I did PT, and I went to work. I don't know where I'm going right now, but I'm telling you right now, I'm going to work. And what I'm doing is going to lead to something bigger than this. You just got to trust me, right? I'm just going to keep doing what I've been taught, and it's going to work. And that's what happened, right? I built a network of people that man, I'm just so blessed. I really am. I get so overwhelmed with gratitude because of I mean it. There's so many good people in my life, but it's because I don't want anything from them. I earn that privilege. I earn that friend, the privilege to call, them a friend. And that's what I did. I went and met these people, everybody from, David Faraday, the Irish golfer, to, Jeff Staubach, Roger Staubach's son, and so many other people, Rex and Ken, like so many others that are just great humans. And because of that, I was able to, I started, I was with David Faraday. He helped me start a gun company, and that's what I want people to realize is that my mindset growing up was a very practical mindset. I'm from a small Groesbeck redneck town, right? My pastor jokingly says it like, boy, you don't get up and go to fun, you get up and go to work, right? Like that's the mindset that I had growing up is that get your head out of the clouds, find a job. right? And that's where my mind always was. And with Faraday, obviously if you don't know who he is, he's this Irish golf announcer, right? He made a lot of money, and he loves veterans. He got his American citizenship, and I never will forget one day we were out shooting. He's like, "Oh, Johnny, you should build guns for a living." And I'm like, "Man, I don't know how to, start a business or anything like that. I'm going to go to college or whatever." He's like, "Oh, you'd be a horrible student." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "Oh, you listen to some liberal professor." I'm like, "All right, heard you." But he, again, in all jokes aside, he believed in me that look, you can do this, and I said, okay. So I put a business plan together, and fast forward 5 years later, I sold it unsolicited. A guy offered to buy it from me, and jokes on him, right? You can have the gun business.
Did he
I
change
do a
the
whole,
name, or is it
yeah,
still Five Toes?
yeah. And so I named it Five Toes Custom, right? And he did change it afterwards, but it just proved to me, or it was a lesson. Like the lesson on that one was there's different types of businesses, right? There's a lifestyle business, right? Probably never going to be a millionaire, can make pretty good money, but you get to play with guns or trucks or whatever it is. There's a lifestyle business, right? There's the security side of professional, not security like we think security, but I'm talking about you're going to go to work 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, like the post office,
Hmm.
right? Something like that, to where, never going to get shot at again, right? But you're never going to miss a kid's school, play, right? You're never going to, again, probably never going to be a millionaire, but you're going to, what the world's going to look like. Again, not one way is right, not one way is wrong, but then there's the other one that's got some risk involved, but the entrepreneurship side, right? To where, um, you can, make some money and do something significant that can change the life of not only you, but plenty others. And when I sold, the lifestyle business of the gun company, man, it was a God thing. A guy called me again, my network. Name was Rex Curzius. I'm having lunch with him tomorrow. Believe it or not, that's funny. He's just an incredible human, successful entrepreneur. I can tell you, the whole podcast about how awesome he was. But he just called me. He's like, "Hey, John Wayne, what are you doing?" I was, again, you get up and go to work, right? I said, "Man, nothing. You hiring?" He said, "What?" I said, "Brother, I just sold a company and I don't have a job." Like, let me just be, very clear with the audience here, right? It's not like I sold Amazon and I was going to buy an island, right? To
Yeah,
figure
yeah.
out what I was going to do. The reality is I probably had about 6 months to find a job. Best case, so I was like, "Yeah, man, you hired?" And he said, "Come by the office." So I literally hung up the phone, went straight to his office in Frisco, Texas. And man, he just mentored me, for 2 hours, probably longer than that. He just broke it down. And the first question he asked me was, "What's your purpose?"
Hmm.
Right. And job, right? JOB. And he's like, "No,
No, 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 no. You got to go deeper than
right, right.
that.
Yeah. Don't play them mind games on me." What? Yeah. But exactly. And so we just dug in, and I just told him, I said, "Rex, man, I know firsthand what it's like to get shot, lose my leg, be in a hospital bed, and have people help me." Right? That hand up, not hand out, right? But that hand up, just have good people help me. And I just want to forever give that back. Right? If that goodness stops with me and it doesn't go to that next guy that's serving, man, that's the tragedy. Right. And like, that's what it just near in my heart, that I will always forever, as there's breath in my lungs, I'm going to give that effort towards. And he said, "There's your purpose." And that's, from there, we branched on to, are you willing to get out of your comfort zone? Right. Obviously SF guys, you want to be in the security business, defense business, all the stuff. And he's like, "Are you willing to get out of your comfort zone?" And I was like, "Well, I've been shot at. So yeah, I'll stick my neck out. What are what are you thinking?" And he said, "Well, I got a friend of mine, Ken Beam, who I'd already met before. I didn't realize it until afterwards because of his benevolency with veterans. But he said, look, he's got a logistics company. Why don't y'all look at partnering together to start a company called Gallantry Global Logistics and make that the whole reason, to hire vets?" And I said, "Well, all right, that's a good, I can't spell logistics, but let me see what it is." And man, it was awesome. I went. literally called him that day in Rex's office. I said, "Hey, Ken, it's John Wayne. I don't know if you remember me. We met here." And he said, "Oh man, I remember you." I said, we got an idea we'd like to run by you." And he said, "All right, well, I'm free on this day." So next week we went by his office, and in 1 week, or one conversation, we shook hands and we started Gallantry, right? And the whole purpose of my company is to provide the next mission, right? We want to hire as many veterans as possible. If you look at logistics, the guy that owns the Houston Astros, he owns a logistics company, right? So I can do the redneck math there, right? That says, man, imagine if we had built something that the significance of that, imagine how many veterans we can help. Right? Imagine how many veterans we can hire. Imagine how many veterans we can give a new purpose. Imagine how many veterans we could keep from killing themselves because they don't have a job. They don't have a community. They don't have all of that stuff, right? That's what we're building here.
Nice. Can you share some more about Gallantry Logistics? Because it says global, so you're not just in Texas.
Right. Well, we are a global, third-party logistics provider, right? So think of a very simplistic way to think about what Gallantry Global Logistics is. We're like a home builder for a supply chain, right? So if you want to build a house, you don't know a plumber, you don't know an electrician, roofer, concrete, drywall, right? You don't know those guys. You deal with a home builder that has connections with all of those guys, right? To build the house. Right. So if you are, a manufacturer of goods that sells goods but you don't know what rates are from Asia coming in on a container, you don't know what air rates are coming in from India, you don't know what a truck lane is from, Chicago to DFW. You just know you need to make sure that you get the raw goods in from this place for making the widget. You make the widget, you inventory it, then you deliver it to wherever that is. Right. So all of that supply chain we deal with. To tell a story, right? Tractor Supply Company is one of our new customers for this year. We're their sole provider for all of their growth. And, imagine a great company, they're obviously our values align very, very closely, right? They are the Home Depot or the Lowe's for all of the rural America, right? And great company and growing like crazy. They're going to, probably do 300 stores of growth within the next 18 to 24 months. Well, we're going to manage all of that, right? They don't know how to get all the shelves, get all the registers, get all the stuff to open these stores. They're going to let us deal with that. That way, all they have to say is store at, 636 is going to come online, January this time. Now store 637 is going to come online February this time, right? And so on and so forth. We're the ones that's going to manage all, getting that inventory from the vendors, managing that, giving them a clear understanding of what their inventory looks like. So if they know if they need to buy more, so on and so forth. And then obviously deploying, whenever store 636 needs to get, it's time to get deployed, we obviously make a truckload for that, or however many truckloads it takes, and then deploy that to the build site, and then they can build the store and go on and go forth, right? Server racks going into data centers, right? That's something that's very high tech. You got to have somebody there knowing what it is. It's not just backing a truck up and putting a pallet of hats on there, right? It's something that you got to have the right people behind it. So that's really what we're doing, and obviously everybody that we are using to utilize that entire ecosystem, guess what they are? They're a veteran, right? That's the goal. Obviously, if you've ever tried to hire warehouse workers and other things, veterans, it's not always the case, but no, that's the goal for us, is to hire as many vets as possible.
So if there's any veterans or anybody listening that wants to inquire, how would they get a hold of you?
Yeah, go to the website, man. Go to the contact us, and we are willing, ready, and able to take your request. And man, we'd love to bring you on the team.
All right, fantastic. And of course, if you need to, pause right now, and you can go in the link in the description, and we'll have all the information in there so you can reach John Wayne himself or the business if you're interested. So, man, brother, I love that you're just still going, and moving forward. So what is it like to move forward through all these obstacles and changes and still keep that passion and purpose alive? Like,
Well, first of all, it's hard, right? I always tell everybody, don't believe my resume, right? Because it's awesome. When you just look at on a piece of paper, right? You just see all that things. You're like, man, that's so awesome. But the reality is, I'm a human just like you are. right? I got same insecurities you do. I got the same doubts. I got the same concern, all the stuff that just comes up in here, right? That you're trying to fight and get over, but I go back to my special forces training and my special forces, mentality. The best thing that being a Green Beret ever taught me has nothing to do about target exploitation, has nothing to do about how fast I can run, how far I can shoot, which is a long ways, but all the stuff, it's believing in myself, right? It's that confidence in myself. Like that's the best thing it ever taught me. When you are, yeah, as you know, man, it's hard to be, you don't do what we do because you like it. You do it because you love it. Right. And it puts you in these uncomfortable positions. It puts you in these absolute no win situations. And it shows you how to, if you just got to dig your heels in, you lean forward and you fight hard and you're going to come out on the other side. Right. And that's how I do it. Right. I know that those days when I don't feel like it, I just say, hey, guess what? I don't got to do this. I get to do this.
Nice.
Right.
I
It's that
like that.
mindset. Right. Happiness is a choice. And I don't let those demons creep up. I said, you know what? I'm going to go out there and I'm not going to be a victim. I'm going to be a victor, right? Every day I'm just going to go be the best that I can. Every day I'm going to wake up, no excuses, and I'm going to go out there whether I want to or not, right? I think this culture nowadays is just we give um, too much authority on our feelings,
Mhm.
right? Feelings are okay to have. I mean, they're important. Don't get me wrong. They're a good gauge. They're a horrible guide. Right. Think about an instrument cluster on the dashboard of your truck. Right. Right. If you see a low pressure light, you're not going to just stop driving immediately. You're like, okay, I got a low tire. I needed to look at that at one point. Right. Right. They're a good gauge. They're a horrible guide. And so that's one thing that I've tried to learn with me is that just because I feel the thing, I don't let it be in there's a reason why the rear view mirror is smaller than the windshield. Right? You focus on where you're going, man. You don't focus on the past. You don't focus on what's back there. You focus on what you need to do every day. And that's what's helped me with that purpose. And obviously, when you surround yourself with like-minded people, it's a lot easier. Right. I'm very selective about the people that I let into my life. I'm very selective about those that I truly call friend. Right. I'm very selective about my time and my energy around those with me. That are they pouring into me or are they draining me? Right. Think about that. That's such a good analogy that people need to realize when they have those friends. Look, I don't have any ill will toward those people, but if you're just a Debbie Downer, man, I'm not going to put energy in it. Right? Life's too short to, when you talk about winning the lottery, you gripe about the taxes. You paid $1 for a scratch off, man. You just, right. And just so on and so forth. And that's what helps me keep that purpose is just having those around me that just pour into me, have those around me that are lifting me up, that vice versa, I'm lifting them up.
No, that's fantastic. And this is why you're here right now, because you have the asset mindset. I mean,
Yeah.
I talk about the mirror, the rearview mirror. And, if you're
Yeah.
focusing on that, you're going to crash in life. You're going to go off the road and you're not going to get where you want to get to. I love the fact that you shared with everyone, like, hey, I'm just a guy too. Because I think a lot of times when people hear stories like, oh, they were special forces, or oh, this guy won these awards and medals, and they put us up on pedestals and they think, oh, I can't do that. It's so far away from me because they were such and such, or they were a
Right.
Green Beret or Navy SEAL or whatnot. And we're just people too. We struggle, we suffer. And you know what we do though? We keep moving forward. And that's so key. And I'm so glad you brought that up for the listeners and the audience to know, like, hey, we struggle too. We really do. And can you give any tips or tricks on dealing with that struggle, like for habits or techniques? Like if you do have that whatever negativity or dialogue in your head, how do you trash that and keep driving on?
I'm always going to start when it comes to things of that nature with God. My faith is everything to me. I think, there are four pillars of resiliency, right? So that's ultimately kind of where you're going with that question, right? How do you stay resilient that no matter what happens, you're going to keep driving forward, and the what I feel that the four pillars of resilience are. One is the social, like I just mentioned, right? Who's around you, that is lifting you up. Who's around you that's pouring into you, who's around you that is a light that shines in the darkness. Same thing with you, right? And like I said with my business, I am where I am today because of the people around me that believed in me. Right. And by the way, I never went to any meeting with someone thinking, oh, my name's John Wayne. I'm a Green Beret. You owe me this. Right. I went to that meeting. My name's John Wayne, and I'm going to be an asset to you. Right. I'm going to make you the way that the redneck way of saying it is, I'm going to make you better for knowing me, full stop. Right. Kind of like the cell phone analogy, right? What do you want people to think whenever they see your name come up on their phone? Right? Do you want them to think when they see your name come up on the phone, oh, snap, JW's calling me. What's up, baby? Right? Or do you want to look at your phone and roll their eyes and take a deep breath and sigh like, oh, gosh, all right, John's calling me.
Yeah.
Right? You get to choose how they respond. You get to choose what people feel whenever they see your name, right? And it's being that asset to them rather than a liability, right? So it's that's the first pillar, is the social thing. And the next two kind of coincide with each other, but it's mental fitness and physical fitness, right? You got to clean out the demons and you got to exercise, right? And what's helped me with both of those, believe it or not, man, is sobriety. I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't do anything, I don't take drugs, I live that clean living where I'm in bed by 8:30 and 9 o'clock, but I'm up at 5 and I go out and I get it done. And that clarity has been the best. I tell everybody that sobriety was the best gift I ever gave myself. It was one of the hardest too, right? Because that's what you do in this world, man. You drink, right? SF world, right? When you show up to the team room, but have a case of beer, right? First jump, case of beer. First deployment, case of beer. All this stuff, right? Some good happens, case of beer. Something bad happens, case of, you go drink again. And, as you know as well as I do, man, we don't know how to deal with death. We can deal with it, just not deal with it. And I just kept going down that rabbit hole, as every time somebody died, I would drink. And getting off that alcohol and just ripping the fabric of alcohol out of my life was one of the hardest things that I've ever done. And, 13 years ago, I stopped drinking, and these 13 years have been the best years of my life, and so that mental clarity, going back to the mental, it just helps so much. And I tell everybody, that drinking, it's that snake in the grass that you can walk around it for years and years and years, and that snake will never bite you till that one day it does. Right? So it's not about whether or not you can do it. It's about whether or not, does it really add value to your life? Is it more fun? Absolutely, it's more fun, right? Quite literally, scientifically, you biologically have more fun, right? Because of the euphoric experience that inebriation causes, right? But it doesn't add value. And that's what I want in my life. I want something that makes me better. I want something that makes me make other people better, right? And so that mental side is what I tell everybody that you got to work on. And then obviously the physical side goes hand in hand. I find it no coincidence that the stronger you are, the more you get in the gym, the better you're going to feel, right? And whether you like it or not, I got one leg, man. There's times I can't even walk. You know what I'll do? I'll crush my happy butt in the gym. That's in my garage. True story. I'll crush my butt in there. I'll go sit on a box and I'll do battle ropes, right? Or I'll crush my butt in there and I'll sit there and I'll just do some dumbbell curls or something, get on a row machine and then just row one-legged, right? But I do something, right? You don't focus on what you can't do. You focus on what you can do, and then you make no excuses about it, right? And so those three things, and then what I started, it went from the question, the foundation that those pillars sit on, man, it's God. God's real. Believe that it's true. God is the reason why I'm here today. If there's no tactical handbook that says, 15 guys go up against 250 in Shock Valley and we come out winning, right? Or there's all those things that I can tell you about, what testimony that his faith has given me, my faith in him has given me. It's changed everything about everything. It gives you meaning in life, right? Because first of all, if we all just think we're this cosmic, dust floating around, right, as a result of some random bang, and then out of that, there's this pool, and we came out of this pool of water that billions of years later, now here we are. Like, if you think we're just an accident and this is how we got here, you're not going to value that. But if you know that God loves you so much that he sent his son Jesus to die for you and that you're an image bearer of him, well, that means something. Right. And when you do that, you're going to take care of this guy. right? And not only are you going to take care of this guy, but you're going to love that person next to you, that's what I try to tell everybody so much is like, I'm not this theologian that can give you this dissertation of what the Bible does this or this. I'm like the blind man, in the book of John when the Pharisees are asking, what did he do or why did he do this? He's like, hey, all I know is before Jesus, I couldn't see and now I can. That's how I am, right? All I
Yeah.
know is before my faith to realizing that I'm not an accident. I didn't have a purpose in life. I didn't have a northern star, a direction in life. And now that I do, that I realize that God's not doing this to me. He's doing it for me, right? That the struggles that I have in life are good, right? That I don't have that negative emotional attachment to struggle because I know I'm getting better for it, right? So when I know that the struggle is good, guess what now? Whenever it comes to me, I don't run from it, right? I don't run from the struggle. I sit in it and I say, oh God, here it is. Let me just sit here and see what I'm supposed to get from it, right? Let me just see what's the lesson. That's the question, right? You can have a victim mentality and say, why me, God? Or you can have the victor mentality and say, hey, God, what are you teaching me?
No,
Right. And
absolutely.
yeah,
No, I'm glad you shared the faith you have and the power that's in that. It really is a game changer. And I don't think a lot of people realize that sometimes. And, God's got a plan. We
absolutely.
are all going through our things and our struggles, but he gives us stuff to grow, to
Mhm.
learn, to realize what's important, to realize our capability. So, don't stress. It's an opportunity.
Right.
Grow from it, learn from it. This is a chance for you to get better in life and be stronger, which is what God wants for all of us.
Right. Well, and first and foremost, it ain't about you. Right? Like think about the significance of that statement when you realize that it's not about you. Like think about the weight that's lifted off your shoulder when you can just acknowledge that you're not the center of the universe.
Yeah.
Right? And here's why I'll prove you that statement is right. Because if you look about those that are the center of their universe that are just chasing their themselves, what's a good end or where is that best done? Well, it's Hollywood, right? And they're the biggest, dumpster fire on the planet. Why? Because they're all living for themselves. They all center around themselves. They're not around, they don't recognize that there's a greater purpose than them. They're not about being a part of something bigger than themselves, right? They're not about serving others. They're not about anything other than finding their happiness, right? Well, happiness is tied to happenings, right? Something good happens, you're happy. Something bad happens, you're sad, right? If you're putting yourself as making yourself happy, you're always going to let yourself down rather than realizing that God is here. That gives you gratitude, right? And you're grateful for the troubles in your life rather than blaming others for those troubles in your life.
Absolutely. And gratitude is such a powerful, powerful thing. It'll flip the switch so fast in your mind and your mindset. When you have that gratitude when something happens and you're
Right.
like, you know what? This is a challenge, or this is really a blessing, or this is a lesson. There's so many things right there that shift and change your mindset.
Yeah. And so it's easy, and I want to make a pull on that gratitude thread because I think when people say gratitude, they think about, oh, thank you, Jesus, I won the lottery. Right, like, it's easy to be
Yeah.
grateful when great things are happen, but it's the gratitude when bad things are happen, right? It's gratitude for the troubles in your life. You just said it, right? It's gratitude for the challenges because you realize, I go back to the struggle, that struggle is good, right? That iron sharpens iron. When you put yourself in that forge, yeah, it's hot, right? Yeah, you're still like, there's a lot of stuff that's happening, but whenever you get taken out of that forge, you're gonna be stronger. Right. And that's where that's when you are grateful to God. Like a perfect example. I love telling this story about Tim Tebow when he got fired from the Jaguars, right? The last time he ever played football, and think about humiliating it is for that guy, right? Who doesn't know that guy in Jacksonville, right? Plays for the Jaguars and all this, and now he's on the news. He got cut. He's fired. He's not good enough for the NFL, and now everybody knows it, and he's feeling sorry for himself. And a couple weeks later, you know what happened? The war of Ukraine started. Right when the war in Ukraine started, a lot of people don't know, but he has a charity that helps rescue children. right? So he was able to deploy those assets and actually go to Ukraine and help with the refugee problem that they were having. Right. And he's like, looking back, he's like, man, I was so, angry at God for, I'm Tim Tebow. I play sports. That's who I am. And because God took that from him, he was able to go and rescue those people. Like, what matters more, a touchdown
Mhm.
or a kid's life? Right. And that's the gratitude that we're talking about.
No, absolutely. It's just a redirection, putting
Yeah.
us on the path that we're supposed to be on. And don't get upset at the path. Just
Right.
keep
Right.
moving forward, take action. And you have that mindset, man, it's game changing. You
I
will
mean,
be able to put your head down on the pillow and go to sleep every night at peace.
it changes everything about everything. Right. It changes everything, how you get up, how you see others. Right? How you see, you're not angry or cynical when others are getting things that you think you deserve, right? You're not just bitter about that. You're not, angry about stuff that you don't get. Like it's just the attitude of gratitude, man, is so powerful.
It really is. And I think that's a great thing that you're sharing. Is there anything else that you'd really like to share on mindset or philosophy in life about positivity with the audience?
Yeah, I mean, again, it starts with your faith, right? Knowing that you're not an accident, knowing that there's a purpose for you, right? Knowing that the challenges you have in life are making you better. But it's also, you know, life is a choice. It's that binary. You do it or you don't. Right. And I try to, I want people to understand that you let the behaviors drive the feelings. Right. Perfect example. No one wants to go to the gym. Nobody. Right. Nobody just wakes up and says, man, I'm just feeling just like I want to go run 45 miles or whatever it is. It sucks going in there. Like what's that old saying? Everybody wants to be strong. Nobody wants to be sore. Right. And what I mean by that is regardless of whether you feel like it or not, you do the things. You make that choice and you commit no matter what. Right. Whether that's praying for your wife, whether you feel like it or not. Right. Whether that's listening to your kids, whether you feel like it or not. And right. And instead of, watching whatever it is, Sports Center or whatever it is, you watch them, you know, do a cartwheel in the front yard. Right, right. But you do the behaviors first. Like, again, I just to be very direct with you or honest with you, like there's times where I would just think, what would a good dad do right now? I don't feel it. Right. I don't have the feelings. That's just, you know what I'm talking about, man. Like that's
Yeah,
just,
yeah, yeah. I got 3 kids. Yeah.
yeah. And, when we're taught to be that lion on a battlefield, that lion's not, taking kids to get ice cream and having all these warm and fuzzy things, and so, but I tell everybody, you don't let the feelings drive, the behaviors do it, and I would think, all right, what would a good dad do right now? He would praise them. Hey, good job, buddy. I'm glad look at you doing a cartwheel. That's awesome. Right. Or whatever the thing is, again, going back to your wife and having that intimacy with her and just looking at her, the most courageous thing a guy can do is look at his wife and ask her, hey, babe, how can I pray for you? Right. That is a courageous thing that men don't have that courage to do, right? Because there's this mainly thing, you're not gonna, be vulnerable with your wife. That vulnerability is the most manliest thing I've ever learned to do, right? So again, I just go back to, life's about a choice, man. You either do it or you don't. You make an excuse or you don't. And it's fine if you do, but you just really, you got to be honest with yourself. And that's what was the big change with me, man, was just having that brutal honesty.
Hmm.
Right? That brutal honesty with myself is what's keeping me from being great.
Yeah, no, the brutal honesty is so important because we gotta step back and be real with ourselves. Because if you're lying to yourself, you're not getting anywhere.
Right.
You have to have that honesty, the real thing, and then take time, pray about it, figure it out. Your spirit's going to come through and you're going to know the right thing. If you give it the time, go for a walk, pray, do a meditation, whatever it is that works for you, man, it'll come through. You'll get your answers. You might not get it right away, but you will get your answers if you put the time in.
Amen to that.
Well, man, John Wayne, what a name. You've lived up to it. And born on the 4th of July, like you said, like, sure you don't have like a pet bald eagle or something in and around there?
I do have a bobblehead. Is that a good consolation? My wife, I remember The Office. where
Yeah,
Dwight
yeah.
had a bobblehead. I would jokingly said to my this is how awesome my wife is and how she actually listens to me. I jokingly said one day, I was like, "Man, I want my own bobblehead." And, for my birthday one year, a little John Wayne bobblehead showed up. It was awesome.
Nice. That's fantastic. I love it.
Yeah.
Man, brother, you are a tribute to the regiment. You're a tribute to human beings. You're a tribute to being a good Christian. You are doing all the things that someone that is an asset in the world. And thank you for coming on here and sharing what you're sharing, all the things you're doing, and you know, lean forward, fight hard, right? Like
Yay, that's right, baby. Come on.
you're you're doing it, man. And I'm proud of you. And I know you're like, oh, a lot of people probably say stuff, but seriously, brother, I'm proud of the things you're doing, what you've gone through, the path you've taken, your sobriety, putting yourself out there, sharing your story. Those aren't easy things to do. I commend your faith that's given you the power to do this. God bless you, your wife. And thank you again for spending your time with the Asset Mindset audience and myself. And is there anything else you want to share before we go?
No, Daniel, thank you for having me. I don't take the invitations like me to have here. God bless you for what you're doing and being a voice out there in the world to let people know, how giving them the tools to become a better person, right? And so, God bless what you're doing here. And I guess the last thing I'll tell everybody is be worth it, right? Be worth those men that came before us that gave the ultimate sacrifice. Be worth the those that died to give us the freedoms we did, and be worth it, because to me you are. When you say thanks for my service, I don't say you're welcome. I say you're worth it.
Hmm. Yeah, it's an honor to serve,
Amen.
and it's amazing. So everybody, don't forget to go in the description. You can learn more about John Wayne and all the stuff he's doing. You can reach out. There's contacts in the bio. And of course, follow, like, subscribe, and share this episode with someone that you think needs to hear it. And by all means, you know what to do. Own your power.